The biggest challenge for me, hands down, like, was when I ruptured my Achilles tendon. But you never think that, and you never know how important it is until you lose it.
Today we speak with a longtime Shen Yun dancer and my dear friend, Sam Poo. Sam talks about how his dance career was put on hold and how the unexpected turn gave him both a new perspective and allowed him to explore new interests outside the stage. Hey man, good to see you.
Good to see you.
How did you actually decide that this is what you wanted to do, that you wanted to dance, learn dance, go to Fei Tian?
It was my mom that actually introduced me to Shen Yun back then, so I watched the show already, and she kind of guided me to learn more about Chinese classical dance, take classes, and afterwards that's when I joined and really got into it professionally.
So you started classical Chinese dance classes, training back in LA.
Before in LA, yeah.
So who's teaching you?
We had a teacher actually. She studied in Beijing Academy of Arts. She moved to LA, so she was LA based, and we had a class with her. I feel really lucky actually that we were able to have classes with her because she was really intense. So I remember the first class, it wasn't like, hey, let's have fun, let's do some steps, let's do some fun choreography. She was like, let's stretch now, like let's get down to business. And actually, before I really hated going to dance class in the beginning, but now that I look back, I really appreciated her for what she did.
Mm-hmm. That was your first experience, but somehow you made it through that.
Yeah.
And then what made you say, okay, well, I'm going to move to New York and go to this boarding school and learn this really seriously and see if I can become a pro?
Right. So actually, I had a older friend, but he's more like a big brother to me, and he did martial arts. He actually taught me martial arts, and so I learned martial arts before. And he went to Shen Yun maybe, I don't know how long before, but he went to Shen Yun first.
Okay. And so he was a dancer.
Yeah, he was a dancer in Shen Yun. It's like when you're a kid, when you look up to somebody, it's just that you don't know why, but you're like, oh, I want to be him. So that's what got me into it and got me to apply for Fei Tian and learn dance professionally and eventually go to Shen Yun.
Was there any trepidation when you got in, like, okay, I'm leaving home, I'm moving across, or was it like, yes, here we go?
It was a mix of both, to be honest. I think it's when I made it, for some reason, that was one of the happiest moments of my life. Even though I wasn't like, before going out, I wasn't like, I have to make it, this is the thing. But after I made it, I felt so happy. I don't know why. And that happiness like kind of like covered up any emotions of leaving home, being lonely. But after like a 2-3 weeks, when it starts sinking in that I'm in New York now and not LA, and like, my parents aren't here, I'm in a boarding school, that's when it started sinking in. I was like, oh, I kind of miss my parents, I kind of miss my friends, and all that. But I think overall, I was very happy at that period of time.
What was it like for you as a student?
It was awesome. It's just because there was kids from all around the world, and there was one kid. His name was Kenji Kobayashi. He's Japanese.
Yep.
Back then, I was really into Japanese stuff, and then right off, I clicked with him, and then I made friends with him, and I just felt like so cool. Like I have a Japanese guy to talk to, and he's still one of my best friends to this date.
Yeah. I remember Kenji when he first came and seeing him develop over these years. You have some similar interests, right? Like filmmaking and stuff like that. He's done a bunch of shorts. You've done some stuff.
I think we're really similar in that aspect. We like to flex our creative muscles. So be it dance, photography, filmmaking, acting. Yeah.
So how did this idea of Three Musketeers come about?
Oh, that's a long story there. I think originally it started from William. He's always wanted to make a YouTube channel since he was a kid. It's like been a dream for him. And for me, I just loved watching YouTube. I never thought about being a YouTuber, but I did like acting. So then it was around the COVID time actually. So we had a lot of free time. And he was just like, one day he was just like, hey, do you want to start a YouTube channel? And I was like, I was kind of like, okay, sure. And he's like, let's go tomorrow. So this is his personality, right? He's like, if I want to do something, I want to do it now. So there's 3 people on Three Musketeers, obviously, right? There's me, Will, and there's Ji-sun.
So, and then it was mostly restaurant type food review. Is that what you were setting out to do?
2 things we're really into, food and, traveling. So we're like, okay, let's make a video about food. We did restaurants in the beginning, but actually we came up with one video where we're like, hey, why don't we just do a vlog about our training? We're like, wow, people really want to watch this content.
Because you really opened up the world of behind the scenes.
I started to realize that now too, that there's not much content about classical Chinese dancing in general, especially Shen Yun on the internet. And I think we filled that hole up with the Three Musketeers channel.
But did you anticipate that it would be such a hit with the young people?
I didn't, because our target audience was actually people that have watched Shen Yun in the past and want to find out more, or people that just search up Shen Yun and want to, see what it's about. But actually, a lot of kids watch us.
Yeah. Why do you think that is?
Well, when we try to make videos, we try to keep it positive, uplifting, and fun. And that definitely resonates with the kids more.
What are some of the most successful like challenge videos that you guys did?
In the beginning, we did some small challenges like, spinning handkerchiefs, which is something we do during the performance, but we made a challenge out of it, how many can you spin, etc. But there was a New Year's like special that we did, and we kind of combined all the challenges into like one program.
That one. Yeah.
There was like spinning handkerchiefs, there was like flexibility challenges, there was like popping balloons with your leg, like hold. A lot of stuff.
Very dancer specific.
Yeah. And I have to give a shout out to Ji-sung for that. He's actually really good at making challenges, really good at making like, fun games. So he made most of the things for that. And I kind of got the cameras ready, and that's how we made that.
Before the Three Musketeers came out, you were already doing some video stuff, right?
I've made a couple short films in the past with you. We made Hotel 33.
Yes, we did.
And I just love being able to make people laugh or cry, maybe even when they watch, a movie that you made, and it changes them actually as a person. Because for me, I feel like the point of making movies is to impart a kind of more like moral value or something meaningful to the person watching. It's not just to entertain them. And when they are able to understand why you made it, or the morality behind the video or the movie, it's something that's very touching to me and very fulfilling. Yeah.
In all these years in Shen Yun, how many different roles have you played by now?
Too many to count.
Too many?
Too many to count.
How about just this last tour?
This last tour, I want to say about 10 to 11 pieces.
What were some of your favorites?
So I just want to say, like, for our performance, it's really fun for an actor or a dancer, because it's not like there's just the whole 2 hours you have one character.
Or one plot.
One plot, yeah. There's many characters that we play because we have different small pieces. And you can play like a clown, and then you can be playing like a hero and the villain, which is what I'm going to talk about in my case, where last year I have like 3 that were really special to me. The first one was from the novel. This dance is based off the novel Journey to the West, and I was playing Tangsen.
Mm-hmm.
And
Tangmang.
Anybody that knows Journey to the West and Tangsen knows that he doesn't do much.
He's probably the simplest of you got Monkey King, you got Pigsy, you got Sandy, and then Tangmang is like the straight man. He's just got like the straight. He's just like, he's very noble and he's very dignified and very pious in his belief. But like you're saying, he's always the one getting into trouble and being rescued.
His role is to get into trouble so that Monkey King has something to do.
Basically. So, and that's what happened this past season too.
Yeah.
So, was there anything challenging for you about that role, about playing this noble monk?
Yeah, so that was my second time playing Tangsen, actually. And the first time I literally just walked around on stage. But this time it was more interesting because there was a part where 3 guys had to carry me on top of their heads.
Right. Is there like a special technique to being carried?
So it took a lot of rehearsals to get that one right, because I have to not me, I have to carry, but those 3 guys have to carry me. They have to lift me up all really fast and put me down really fast too. So if it's not done in sync, it's really hard. And we actually had a couple like rehearsals where just like this person was a little bit late, or this person was a little bit fast. So then we can never get it right. And it was funny actually, it was a joke. They were blaming it on my weight. They're like, Sam, you're so heavy. That's why we can't carry you. But actually we figured out a little trick. And like I was talking about earlier, we were in sync, and also I would arch my back more, so it'd be easier, and I would be more, my core would be more engaged, so that it'd be easier for them to lift me up.
Okay, so you were Tangmang. How about another role?
I was actually a minister called Fan Li in the dance Xi.
The story of Xi.
Yeah. And
it's one of the great beauties of Chinese history.
Yeah. Right. That's what she's known for. That role was fun in that it's not like a simple role where you just like, your motive is just to walk across stage carrying a prop. This role was more complicated because the whole story was orchestrated, or the whole plot was orchestrated by Fan Li, by him.
It's like a beauty trap.
Exactly. There's different times in that piece where I have to interact with different characters. And every time I interact with a different character, I have a different kind of face on. Let's say face, because for example, if I'm talking to or interacting with my kink, it would be more, it'd be a certain way. I'm like, oh, kink, like, how are you? My body would be in a bowing position almost to show respect to him. But if I was talking to maybe Xi, I'm her superior. And so, but at the same time, it's complicated because I'm trying to get her to do something for me.
Right. So that's a really interesting one. And you had a beard in that one. Do you get to stroke your beard?
I love my beard.
That looks fun.
I love my beard. When I was younger, I had a baby face. And
you still have a baby face.
Okay. Anyways, so I remember like, even when I was just like for fun, whenever we picked our costumes, just, role play, I would want the beard because it would make me look more mature. And another good thing about the beard is if you're on stage and you're waiting for someone else to do their bit, it's always nice to have something to,
you have something to do.
Something to do. Or else you just be standing there, right? And then I just, stroke the beard.
Yes, and then you start doing it when you don't have a beard, just to show
that I'm thinking.
Yeah. Okay, so that's another role. What else?
Last year I had a role that actually, I feel like it helped me improve as a dancer, as an actor, and as a dancer a lot. And it was a role in the Dafa piece. The story depicts the persecution of Falun Dafa in China, which is happening right now. And in that piece, I play the older brother, and my younger sister is persecuted to death. And I remember every time, I didn't tell anybody, I told very little people about this, but every time I did that piece, I would cry a little bit. It sounds kind of cheesy right now, but during the piece at the climax, I would cry a little bit because I tried to put myself in that role, and I tried to go through the emotional like roller coaster that he was going through, loving his sister, younger sister, and eventually having her taken away from him. And I remember there's one part that I always cry almost every single show, and it was when the sister passed away already. And then there's a part where I'm really sad, but then the music would change, and in the backdrop, gods would come on, and they kind of brought back my sister so I could see her for the last time. And that part, whenever I looked at her, and then I looked at, the gods and everything on the backdrop, it almost felt like it was real. And I would always shed some tears for that part. And the tough part about that is after that, we had Mongolian dance directly. So I changed my costume, went into Mongolian dance.
That's a very happy dance.
Yeah, exactly. So I would be like, people would see me, I'm like, just like going from that into Mongolian. Wait, I have to be like, just like really, really energetic.
How do you transition?
Happy. You just have to, for me, I've become so used to it because you know how on stage we have the side curtains. Right when I step out of the side curtains onto the stage, I automatically click into a different character or role.
I think like the first time you see the dances, it's super exciting. It's like, okay, this is going to be, you can see the finished product.
Yeah, you do. What actually happens is in the beginning when you learn it, I'm literally learning what move do I do on which beat. So it's like very, I don't want to say mechanical, but it is a little bit like that. Like 1, 2, 3, 4, which beat you do which movement. And then so when the magic actually comes in is when, like you said, when the backdrop is there, the orchestra is there, and I see it the first time on stage, is when like some things click. Like, oh, that's what that's supposed to be like. Because we have the backdrop, which also helps tell the story. So sometimes we literally are just interacting with the backdrop according to our beats. And only when we see it, because it takes time to make, do we really realize, oh, wow, that's what it's supposed to be. Yeah.
Yeah. Remember a few years ago, this is way back actually, we were going through rehearsals and I was watching them and I was like just kind of getting ready for tour. And then there was one rehearsal, which was, I think was the first dress rehearsal. We have different levels of rehearsals, right? It was like the first formal full dress rehearsal where everything just clicked. It was like a being that was there. It had like the body was there and everything was there, but like the soul had not been turned on and like something turned on and it was alive. And I remember just seeing that. I was like, wow, it's ready.
Yeah. Actually, I have a story for that. One of the times, like you said, when the soul wasn't there, we rehearsed this dance multiple times. We even went on stage without the backdrop. But the first time I watched this dance that I'm talking about, with the backdrop, with the orchestra, with everything, another troupe was doing it, I cried. Yeah, I cried. And I was so surprised that I was crying because I was like, I've been doing this dance myself, but why am I crying now? But it's just like, I guess, I feel like, as I said before, there's some magic when everything comes together.
Yeah, I had that in Puerto Rico last year. So because, we were touring together last year and Puerto Rico was a few weeks into tour. So we done maybe, I don't know, 20 shows or something like that. And then we go to Puerto Rico, and because I don't speak Spanish, I wasn't on stage, so I was in the audience. I was watching it. And first of all, the Puerto Rican audience was just so enthusiastic.
Right.
I mean, there were everything.
Yeah.
And they were just giving so much back. But just like, tears in my eyes the whole show. I was like, what is going on here? I get like emotional just thinking about it now. And, over time, as you see it more and more, like maybe it becomes a bit calmer.
Right.
But I was just like so blown away. I'm like, this is the show that I've been emceeing. Now I'm in the audience. And something about the energy of the stage and the audience and the reaction and it was just mind blowing.
And you've been emceeing for so long with this company.
That was my 18th tour.
18th tour.
And still, I was just like the first time.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's cool.
What would you say were some of your most joyous moments in Shen Yun?
I've had many actually in Shen Yun. I think for me, joy and fulfillment kind of come together. I'm usually the most happy when I feel fulfilled. And when I make a dance piece or I participate in a dance piece that really moves people or makes people laugh is when I feel the most joy. And actually working with Ji-sung, who's a choreographer, and he makes a lot of his dance pieces in the earlier days when he was just starting out. I was the main character. And I feel like I'm the most happy when I'm on stage performing the pieces and I get the reaction from the audience. It's kind of like they're giving to me, and that's when I feel the most happy.
What about challenges? What have been some of your biggest challenges as a dancer?
The biggest challenge for me, hands down, was when I ruptured my Achilles tendon. And it happened while I was tumbling. I was doing a move that I've done so many times, maybe even hundreds of times. It was a back handspring backflip. And actually, when I was coming down for the back handspring, I remember that time specifically, I was thinking about going a little harder so I could jump, go up higher. And I gave a little more force. And that after I gave the force, immediately I felt a pain in my Achilles when I went down on the floor. And most people don't know this, but I heard a snap.
Wow.
Yeah, because after I landed, so I finished the flip because I've done it so many times. So I could land it, but after I landed on my back. And that's never happened to me before. And I was so confused. I was like, what's going on? And then I looked around and everyone heard the snap. So they're all looking at me and I'm sure they knew what was going on. And there was a moment where I didn't want to believe what was happening. So I tried to get up and take a step. And as I took that step, I collapsed down again. And then at that point, I just want to, everyone's staring at me. So I was like, I want to be like, hey guys, it's okay. I'm cool. So I tried to take another step and I collapsed again. And that's when I realized, okay, something's really off. And I looked at my foot and literally what it looked like was the foot was dangling. I had no feeling in that foot because the tendon was completely snapped.
So then what happened after that?
After that, so I feel really grateful because the company got me a flight and they found a surgeon for me in Detroit. And he's actually one of the top surgeons in the US because he works with the Detroit Pistons. And
that's pretty common basketball injury.
Right, exactly.
It's actually a misconception I had because I thought those injuries happen when you land, but it's actually when you're pushing into the ground before jumping that happens.
And actually, I remember before I got the surgery, I had a small talk with him and he came to reassure me that it was all good. He was like, hey, how are you feeling? I was the last surgery of the day. And he's like, how are you feeling? I'm like, good, but I'm a little bit nervous. He's like, no worries. I'm doing another Achilles surgery right now. After I'm done with that, I'm going to, do yours. He's like, and then he was making it sound like Achilles surgery was just, having a meal.
Like dental work, maybe.
Yeah, like dental work. But actually, yeah, I'm really grateful that I had him because he just made the process feel so much safer, because he has so much experience.
Then is it a long, complicated surgery or?
Actually, hold on. I don't know if I told you this, but I have a story for then.
Okay.
So the whole surgery process, I'm scared, like I told you before, and this didn't help, but I went online to search what happens.
Are you looking at the hospital bed on your phone? Really?
I searched up worst things that can happen. Not literally that bad, but I searched up what's some bad things that can happen during surgery, so I'm ready. And one of the articles said that this guy, he woke up in the middle of his surgery.
Okay.
So I was like, that was my fear. I was like, okay, what if they're doing surgery and I wake up? That's the scariest thing ever, right? So after surgery, before surgery, I was so fearful of waking up, right? After surgery, I woke up. The first thing I did was look over at the, I didn't know if it was a surgeon or just a nurse, but it was a nurse because the surgery was over. But I looked up at him. I said, "Please tell me the surgery is over. Is it over?" And he's like, "It's over. Don't worry. Your surgery's done." I was like, "Oh, you don't know how relieved I was." I was like, "Oh, okay. Thank goodness. Okay, so everything's good." And then he asked me a question afterwards. He's like, "Okay, I just want to ask you, from 1 to 10, how much pain are you feeling?" And before he asked me, I wasn't feeling any pain. I was just relieved. And then right when he said the word pain, I started thinking about pain. I was like, "Oh, pain." And that's when I felt my Achilles, and it felt like there was like an animal gnawing on my Achilles. It was really painful. And I kind of freaked out a little bit. I turned to him. I'm like, "I feel 10, 10, 10, 10." I was like screaming. And he's like, okay, relax. Okay, I got you. And then, yeah.
And then what, rehab after that? How long were you in the hospital for?
So usually, you don't stay in the hospital for very long.
Okay.
Because they finish the surgery. You go home right afterwards. But usually it takes about 6 months for you to start walking and running again. So, and it's around 2 to 3 months where you're on crutches. And I spent those 6 months in Los Angeles because my parents were there and they could take care of me. And I remember those months were probably the hardest part.
But what were you doing?
Nothing. I was doing nothing.
Just lounging around.
Because you literally couldn't do anything, right? Because you're injured. And the only thing I could do was think about the past, think about what I could have done better, and actually that period of time when I was doing a lot of thinking made me really appreciate all the things I had before. I heard the phrase before, like, you don't know what you have until you lose it, but I never had experience of me losing something so crucial, like, because like I couldn't walk, right? And I've been walking my whole life, and I never appreciate. You never go like, "Oh, I'm so appreciative that I can walk."
I'm so grateful for my Achilles
I'm so grateful for my Achilles tendon, but you never think that, and you never know how important it is until you lose it. I was sitting on the couch, and I think back to when I was walking before, normally running, dancing, and it kind of just made me appreciate like dancing, being able to dance, just being able to be healthy before. And I kind of like regretted sometimes where I just took it for granted, like I didn't take care of my body. I didn't do the proper warm-up routine, everything. And that's in terms of walking and my Achilles tendon. But I also kind of thought back to my life in Shen Yun as a performer, and it made me appreciate what I had then. Because at home, it was just me alone, because my parents have to work. I was just alone, and I had nobody around me. And I did try actually going out and making new friends, and I did meet some very nice people actually that taught me a lot. But it's different being in Shen Yun, because everyone in Shen Yun, it's like, because our company, like with our dancing and music, we're trying to revive traditional Chinese culture. And everyone in Shen Yun, they're there for a purpose.
Yeah.
They're trying to, show the world like what actual traditional Chinese culture is. And even though we're not like every day we wake up, we're like, "Hey, we're going to revive traditional culture." We're like, "Hey, traditional culture." It's not like that, but it's an underlying thing. Mm-hmm. So when people work together and talk, you can feel it. Like everyone's on the same page, kind of.
Yeah.
And being in LA, I appreciated that. Like, cause I took it for granted before. I was, like a lot of friends, I remember thinking a lot of friends that I had, I was like, okay, they're just my friend, whatever, But in LA, when I didn't have them, I felt like, oh man, like
it was gone, and now you realize something was missing.
It's like so precious to me. Yeah. And so actually, when I came back to Shen Yun, I felt like it was almost like a dream come true.
Yeah. I remember seeing you actually at some point during that tour, because you'd been hurt. It must have been right before tour?
Yeah. It was right before tour. And so when you guys came to LA to perform then, I was able to walk, like, I want to say limp.
I think you must have been, on crutches or something. It was clearly you were still fairly early in your rehab process. And I mean, I'd heard that you were injured, and then we saw you backstage just during setup before the show. And I remember you sitting there on the steps and just kind of chatting with people, and we chatted for a little bit. And it looked like I saw this longing in your eyes of wanting to be back, wanting to be on stage.
It was that obvious, huh?
Yeah. But then when you came back to Shen Yun, you had this like new glow of like determination and being really present and cherishing.
I also watched a performance that night. I remember like I've watched performances in the past as a dancer in Shen Yun, but watching it from an audience perspective that time really changed how I viewed Shen Yun. I remember I was sitting next to some audience members and they were laughing, they were crying, and I just felt like how deep of an impact the performance made on them. And I just felt like, wow, this is such a powerful medium or dance, to express stories, tell people like different moral like lessons just with something so simple like with dance. And there's no barriers, right? It's not like you have to know Chinese to watch it. Everyone can understand it. I just felt how special and precious it was. So when I did come back to Shen Yun, like you said, and you probably saw, I really cherished like everything I had. Like I remember when I came back and we're having some intense dance training, instead of being like, oh man, this is really tiring, I was like, oh man, I love it. I can walk and dance now, right? And it's like, I can have bar, I can stretch, I can kick. I'm so lucky. That's what I felt.
Now it's been a few years.
Yeah.
Did that new perspective have staying power? Is that still how you look at things now? Did it kind of fade over time?
So to be honest, with time, you kind of forget it. And it's been quite a few years now. But I always remind myself in my hardest moments, for example, when it's, really tough, like for example, I'm feeling a lot of pain in a certain area because it's normal for dancers to feel pain. I always remind myself when I was on my bed in LA, unable to walk. And I was like, would you rather be there in LA with a ruptured Achilles tendon, unable to walk, or would you rather be here? I was like, obviously, like, being through that experience, I would rather be here right now. It's so much better. And it makes me appreciate the current moment. Yeah.
What are you looking forward to in the future as a dancer?
Actually, recently I've been, all my dance career, I've been trying to like improve myself, like just getting better at dance myself, like focusing on myself, training hard. But recently I've been doing a lot of things that have given me a new perspective. Let me explain. So we obviously, like we talked about, I started the Three Musketeers, and on the Three Musketeers, what it is we kind of show audience members the behind the scenes of Shen Yun and dancing life. And I found it so fulfilling to be able to share the story with more people, but also to help people with this content. So we've put out a couple of videos about posture, which anybody can watch and learn from. We've put out a couple of videos about stretching. And in the future, I don't want to just work on dance like I've been doing, work on myself. I want to help other people understand dance or even teach people dance. And be it through video or just, actually teaching people one-on-one. I feel like it's really fulfilling, and I see what I can do to other people, like the positive effect I can have on other people. And right now, I just want to do more of that, be making videos or actually helping other people. Yeah.
Is there anything else you can tell us about next tour?
Rehearsing right now, I'm very excited. Like I go into rehearsals excited, ready to go, and like also testing my limits. So that's definitely a good sign of a very exciting performance.
Well, and I heard you're into coffee now, so we'll definitely have to look into that on tour.
Yes. You're into the quantity of coffee.
That is true. Yes. It's got to have a certain bar. There's a certain threshold.
Yeah.
I won't name
brands.
Can
I tell a story? Okay. I remember we came back from Mexico, the flight, and it was like, correct me if I'm wrong, like 9 p.m., 10 p.m., and we're in the airport. I think it was JFK, and we're about to leave, and then I see Leeshai run to the nearest Dunkin' Donuts and get a coffee at 10 p.m.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, and someone's like, it's Leeshai, he needs a cup of coffee.
Yeah, and I think I got one for our conductor, Milan, as well.
Okay.
Yeah, if I remember correctly. Yeah, both of us sometimes just need a cup of coffee.
Okay.
Yeah. Sam, it's really good to talk to you.
Have me back again. Often.
Yeah, definitely have to do it again. Thank you.